Let's get rolling here. We're gonna do this hybrid. Don't know who else is out there. Thank you. So let me go through the script for what we conducted meetings in hybrid fashion. Hold on, Sarah. So today we're going to use Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. The chair can request that members of the public provide their names for purposes of keeping accurate minutes of the meeting. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in the order they were raised. All questions must be directed to the chair. As preliminary matter, this is Barry Rector, acting chair. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dave Iverson?
Here.
John Travolta is no longer, sorry. Mary Longacre?
She's absent today.
She's absent, okay, thank you. Mr. Lowell?
Here.
Great. Joe Topham?
Here.
Don Hill Holgate?
Hi, Barry, I'm here. I'm on the boat, so I might lose you.
No, I completely understand. Thanks for trying to make it. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah, Seth Engelboard?
Here.
Bert Johnson?
Here.
Christina Jellamy?
Here.
Wendy Hudson?
Here.
For staff, Leslie Woodson Snow?
Here.
Megan Trudell?
Here.
Thank you. Nikki Sharif?
Here.
Mike Burns?
Here.
Mike, is Marisa with us? I'm sorry. I'm scanning the screen here real quick.
Yes, I am here.
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Barbara is here as well. Barbara Lynchans from SDOT.
All right, great. Thank you. And let's see here. Do we have any anticipated speakers that are up on that deck as well too?
Yes, William Cook,
William Cook?
expert counsel.
Perfect. All right. Are you here, Mr. Cook?
Present.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Gotta love this script. It definitely will keep you entertained for a few minutes. So good evening, everyone. This open meeting of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission is convened by video conference via Zoom as well as live, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, as the chair, note otherwise. I'm now going to turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. Taking care to identify yourself. For any items with public comment after members have spoken, the chair may afford the opportunity for public comment to these members of the public who have joined via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their name and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Once again, that number for our home studio audience is 33122. It feels like that kind of thing. And so ends the ad. So we have a quorum available at this point. You have an agenda before you at the moment. And I would glad to take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve it.
Mr. Lowell, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Right, made and seconded. Roll call vote, Mr. Iverson
Aye.
and Mr. Lowell,
Aye.
Mary Longacre,
Yes.
absent, sorry, I keep doing that. Joe Totten,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Seth Engelboard,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Christina Jelemy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well too. Thank you. Okay. So next thing up on the agenda is going to be, thank you for approving that, the Vineyard Northeast Offshore Wind Energy Development. You had a packet that was made available to you. Leslie, do you want to chime in for a moment or two?
I don't. I think we should go straight to the consultant.
All right, great. If you, yes,
Sorry, and for the record, Mr. Chair, Holly Backus for Preservation Planner is also. here.
oh, thank you,
And
Holly.
can the public speak? Sorry. Mr. Chair.
Yes, I'll get to that in a moment. The first
Okay,
thing on my
thank you.
agenda is Vineyard Northeast Offshore Wind. I will get to that though. Thank you. So I'm sorry. Thank you, Holly, for joining us. I totally apologize. William, Mr. Cook, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very well, thanks. It's nice
Good.
to.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So what do you have for us? I'll turn the floor directly over to you and let me see
Oh.
what this helps.
Of course. My name is William Cook. I'm a partner at the law firm called Cultural Heritage Partners. I've been working on behalf of the town of Nantucket for, I guess, over 4 years now, very closely with Holly Backus, who you know very well as Lauren Sinatra and your select board with respect to the Vineyard Wind projects. It was my understanding that you all had received a consulting party request for the Vineyard Northeast project, which is one of the Vineyard Wind projects, and had some questions about maybe what to do with it and where things stood in the consultation process related to Vineyard Wind. So Holly had asked me to, if I could provide a brief update and answer any questions you might have. I do have a commitment at 5:30, but if any questions arise after I have to leave, I'd be happy to provide answers to Holly through Holly after the meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. So the town of Nantucket and related entities like your own received what's known as a standard consulting party request from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. The town of Nantucket will continue to receive these for all manner of wind projects off of Nantucket's coastline. Vineyard Northeast, however, is one of the Vineyard Wind projects that was covered by our Good Neighbor Agreement, or the town's Good Neighbor Agreement with Vineyard Wind, that was designed to be a global resolution of adverse visual effects that will be experienced vis-a-vis Nantucket's National Historic District, which is, you know, is a national historic landmark. And as many of you know, the Section 106 process under the National Historic Preservation Act provides this process by which parties like your own, in which case local government that has jurisdiction over let's just say the preservation of historic assets within the town's jurisdiction, has an automatic ability to participate as a consulting party to learn more about the project, to find out if there are going to be adverse effects about the project, and to the extent that adverse effects are going to be experienced on historic properties, to work through consultation to help find ways to avoid or minimize or mitigate harm. I know that I wouldn't expect most of you to be following this environmental review process that's being conducted by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, but to say that it's somewhat flawed is a bit of an understatement, which is why we worked so hard with the town to negotiate the settlement with Vineyard Wind, known as the Good Neighbor Agreement, that was designed to address all of these adverse visual effects to and from Nantucket's historic district so that you wouldn't have to go back and do this again and again and again and again with respect to the Vineyard Wind projects. And just briefly, there was a 16 point, a little over $16 million offshore wind mitigation fund that was created that the town will be allowed to deploy for historic preservation and coastal resiliency and climate change related projects. That fund just recently launched its first set of, the grant process is underway, and as additional funds are paid into the project after the financial close of the different Vineyard Wind projects, that fund will have additional dollars to administer on behalf of the town. The reason I'm mentioning the mitigation funding is that this is the highest amount of mitigation funding ever achieved by a local government for any sort of offshore wind project. Before the town engaged cultural heritage partners and we were able to negotiate the Good Neighbor Agreement, I think BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, had started with about a $350,000 offer to the town of Nantucket that went up a couple weeks later at about $850,000. But that's even on the high end of what federal agencies are offering to local governments as a way of mitigation to offset adverse effects that cannot be resolved because of the need to create the project. And in the United States, our environmental laws are designed to balance development with preservation environmental concerns. It's, I think, fair to say that the scale is often tipped in favor of development, and federal agencies, tend to press hard to make sure that permits get issued. But the town, as I said, was able to resolve all of the problems that we've been having with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management in a way that I would say maximized its interest to the greatest degree possible, while also gaining contractual guarantees that it never would have been able to obtain through the Section 106 process for some minimization of adverse visual effects due to the removal of certain rows of turbines with paint color to minimize visual effects. And also we achieved the guarantee of aircraft detection lighting systems to be put in place to minimize adverse visual effects at night. That's becoming state of the art, but was not the case when the town negotiated the Good Neighbor Agreement. So the Good Neighbor Agreement, just in summary, helped the town to offset harm to historic properties and the viewshed through a combination of financial mitigation for harm that couldn't be avoided or wasn't going to be avoided, in addition to these avoidance and minimization measures that were put into the Good Neighbor Agreement. And so the reason why one would not participate as a consulting party in a project that's covered by the Good Neighbor Agreement is those concerns about visual impacts have already been addressed. Just specifically, or just so that even though the town would not be participating formally as a consulting party, no rights are being waived. We still have the contractual guarantees that are available in the Good Neighbor Agreement. And Holly and Lauren and I and other attorneys at my law firm are continuing to monitor all of these projects so that we understand, what's coming down the pipeline. So I didn't want you to think that that we were not aware of what's happening. So in a few specifics, and I'd be happy to answer some questions. And mainly just to make clear, I know there's been some misinformation circulating about the impacts of Vineyard Northeast. And so I wanted to just answer some of those questions. Number one, these turbines are going to be about 30.5 miles away There will be up to 160 turbines. That number could diminish when these projects are planned. There's some leeway given to developers by the federal government. So there may end up being fewer than 160 turbines. We're still in the very early stages of the Vineyard Northeast permitting review by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And then it's also true that the turbines over time have become taller due to changes in technology. The Vineyard wind turbines are around 812 feet tall. The Vineyard Northeast turbines their construction and operations plans are seeking approval for turbines up to 1,312 feet tall. It doesn't mean that the turbines will be that tall, but because we're all concerned about visual effects, I have spent quite a bit of time with our expert who has been answering our questions, and as well as with Vineyard Wind, the developer, to again, we have this direct pipeline to the developer that we wouldn't have in a normal Section 106 review. It's made possible by the Good Neighbor Agreement. But we have been assured by our visual simulation expert that even though the turbines of Vineyard Northeast are taller, because of their distance from shore and the curvature of the earth and the perspective of the eye, they will appear to be smaller than the Vineyard wind turbines. So it's true that they may actually be taller, but they will not appear taller when viewed from shore. So I wanted to be sure that everybody knew that. And I'm working to develop some visual aids so that that will be made more clear to the public. We've worked closely with Holly and Lauren to help develop an offshore wind website for the town. We're in the process of creating a new website for that so that it's easier to navigate and use. And I will soon be providing an additional update about Vineyard Northeast for everyone's benefit, as well as for the benefit of the public, with links to additional information that can answer questions about the project. So I hope that brief overview is helpful, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions that your commission may have.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Holly, is there anything else you want to chime in on before I turn it over to the commissioners initially?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really. I'm just thankful that we have CHP who I do attend our consultation meetings, but CHP is also there. So we have multiple eyes and ears, and we always, speak to one another when we go through these different consultations for other developers. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Commissioners, anything you want to ask at this point? Dave?
No, I'm good.
You're just
Thanks.
folding your hands.
Just holding my hands.
There you go. Joe, go ahead.
Mr. Cook, please. I'm just curious, is this project based on kilowatts or limited amount of, or maximum amount of wind turbines? So what is the parameter? So, right now I think they're each 15 kilowatt per wind turbine. And I was told that they should be jumping up to 17, 18 kilowatts the next year or two. Does that limit the amount of wind turbines, that would be placed out there? I'm just kind of curious, what are the parameters of this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The technology in terms of turbine manufacturing is changing quickly. I don't expect that you will see turbines of that level of kilowattage, given that the heights, given what the proposed heights will be. I can't give you the exact kilowatt. I could provide it by email after the call to show you how the expected kilowattage would match up per turbine. That's unlikely to change. The kilowattage goes up as the height increases. So it's my understanding that as where we stand now, there's a set number of turbines being planned, and that those number of turbines are designed to meet the agreement between the developer and the state in terms of the power purchase agreement. So theoretically, it's possible that there could be taller turbines and you could have fewer turbines to satisfy the power purchase agreement goals. But that's not likely to happen, given that the developer has to submit for approval a construction and operations plan that's going to lock it into this maximum height of 1312. What I expect is that the turbines will not end up being that tall. I've seen some projects where the construction operations plan have anticipated turbines of, let's say, 1,100 to 1,200 feet tall, and the actual turbines end up being around 900 feet tall. So again, we're still at the very early stages of the Vineyard Northeast permitting. I would expect to have more concrete information available from the developer within the next 6 months. And we'll continue to, update the town and alert you to, if there are any concerns. But the developer really has to lock in what it's planning to do on the front end with these construction and operations plans. It's possible to amend the construction operations plan, but then that restarts the environmental review process to reassess all the adverse effects and other environmental effects. So developers have to kind of make a guess on the front end about what they're going to need. So it's possible that, new turbines will be taller, but that's not envisioned for the Vineyard Northeast project.
Thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? Anyone else on Zoom?
Public?
Just one thing real quickly. Mr. Cook, did you have a hard stop at 5:30?
I do, unfortunately.
All right.
But as I said, I'm happy to respond to questions later. If I need
Okay, and
advice.
what's the best mechanism by which you want to do that? Is it through Holly
I think
or?
through Holly would probably be the easiest thing for all of you. And then, be happy to respond tomorrow if, any questions come up later
Sure.
in the meeting.
Sure. So, all right, we're gonna let you go in all fairness at this point. I do appreciate that.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, no problem, because I'm noticing the time is less than probably about a minute or so that you'd have.
That's fine.
But we'll continue this conversation for a minute or two, because I do have a member of the public who'd like to comment, and then Holly, I'm gonna put you on deck for this if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Should I come up there or just? sit
You're
where I
welcome
am?
to, absolutely.
Don't be shy, Val.
I'm not.
Who's ever accused Val of being shy?
Being shy, she was letting me know from the back corner.
Weren't we in this?
Barry's laughing.
Weren't we in this trailer when it was new?
Yeah, either there or,
Right here?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Is this the
Yeah.
one that was Dick Herman's math class? Which one was this one? Which one did they?
I have
make these
no
for?
idea.
Can't
Before
remember.
my time.
So I have some questions and actually a statement. I hope you're gonna give me the time. Oh,
Yeah.
Val Oliver. President,
I'm sorry,
resident.
oh, resident, okay.
Nat, stop it.
No. It's our first black.
Thank you,
meeting,
Val.
I'm so happy. Couldn't be happier.
See you next month, Val.
So I am struggling with this process of not including the public in these pre-decision-making discussions. As stakeholders, I think we have a lot to lose environmentally, historically, and economically. We have to have a voice at the table. I think what's being missed is the big picture. At build out, we will have 1,400 turbines collectively, assuming an area larger than the size of the state of Rhode Island. The map that was circulated in your packet, I think is misleading. It's showing this as a single entity of a project when in fact there's 9 side by side. So that was a problematic situation for me. I think the rights of Nantucket residents and business owners are not being protected. The documents by the US government agencies are clear that the Vineyard Wind offshore projects will have a major impact on the National Historic Landmark, Nantucket, Muskeget, and Tuckernuck Islands. Unfortunately, the Good Neighbor Agreement that was signed without the public being informed essentially says those major impacts are okay, and we support them, and the money is a good enough mitigation. The Good Neighbor Agreement prevents our leaders from advocating for Nantucket with respect to these projects. And it seems that they have the flexibility to do whatever they want which is what I'm really struggling with. And unfortunately, nobody can say anything negative about them. It's a disgrace that we are not allowed to comment as stakeholders, being individual residents and property owners. These are 50% taller than when you made the handshake agreement and signed that document, and I can't understand how major changes in processes are not included or are just waved over. The ADLS has been promised, but it's never been actually implemented yet, and I think they agreed to implement that at the end of the construction, which is 30 years. The Good Neighbor Agreement prevents our leaders from advocating for Nantucket with respect to these projects, and it seems that they can do whatever they want. The new turbines stand more than 1,300 feet above sea level, according to the construction and operations plans that I took the weekend to read. They're enormously tall, much taller than what we are seeing now. It's clear they're not interested in mitigating any major impacts visually, and I just don't think money is the solution to this situation. The reality is the agreement is not good for Nantucket. According to the press release last November, the dollars received by Nantucket and the two private organizations don't add up to the $4 million that was promised in the agreement. The height of the turbines is taller than anybody initially conveyed to the public. And the average price of energy for Massachusetts in the last year has been about $30 a megawatt hour. And,
Let's give you 1 minute. It's 3 minutes.
oh, didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, the agreement that was signed with Vineyard Wind is for $89 a megawatt hour. What will this do to our energy bills? And is anybody looking out for that? There's huge environmental damage and impacts with trenching, pile driving, and cabling. We are bearing a heavy burden and receiving none of the benefit. I am thinking that perhaps our leaders and advocates who are supposed to know what's going on haven't actually read the impact statements and the construction and operation plans. And I would encourage them to, because it is devastating to see what's involved with this. And shockingly, any of the real answers are redacted, any of the data. So I would like to say this commission and PEDC is supposed to protect our island and all of its resources using research, data, and careful planning. I implore you to get involved and help Nantucket by pushing back on these projects. Many other municipalities and organizations are gearing up, fighting back, and protecting their resources. It's time Nantucket does the same. And if it's all so great, why is it all so secret? Thank you.
Thank you. If you have anything further too, I'd encourage you to make sure you send it to Holly.
I
We'll act as-
will. I
we'll act
really
as a-
will in
yeah.
writing, for
Yeah,
sure. Thank
perfect.
you.
And then
Thank
we'll
you for
get
your
back to you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Val.
Thanks, Val.
Appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to comment on this?
I'm gonna throw something out.
Go ahead. Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I have someone on Zoom as well.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead.
please. Why don't you bring them up for me, please?
Amy Disabio.
The Cibio, it's okay.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, can you hear me yet?
Yes,
Oh, great, thanks. I don't know if it comes up with my name and my husband's name, but this is Amy DeCibio.
it comes up
Thanks.
with you. Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Yeah,
I have a couple of comments. First of all, I want to say that I completely would like to back up everything that Val had to say. I think that for starters, I find it disappointing that the town's attorney, Will Cook, on this would say, I wouldn't expect you all to follow this process. This is a really important process, and what Nantucket is giving up here is enormous. And I think that's part of the problem with the Good Neighbor Agreement is it's not allowing anyone to follow the process, much less the residents and other stakeholders. The other comment that he made is that the Good Neighbor Agreement helps us to not have to go through this Section 106 process over and over again. And I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, but actually what that helps is the developers to not have to go through this process over and over again. The Good Neighbor Agreement encompassed about 4 different projects within 2 lease areas. And in one foul swoop, Nantucket, signed off on having a voice at the table on any of these. And now everyone in the town believes the town councils and boards and committees are all under the impression that they are bound and gagged by the Good Neighbor Agreement. And we've done some research on this, and we would suggest that that's actually illegal to be gagging or binding anyone from any of these future projects. So I think that that's something that I hope everyone will look into. Mr. Cook also mentioned that $16 million is the largest amount ever awarded to a municipality. And with a quick Google search, I mean, I didn't really look. I know other towns have gotten more than that, but Wainscott in Long Island, that's out in East Hampton, got a $29 million settlement.
I'm sorry. I have to correct that.
Yeah.
That's apples and oranges and it had nothing.
Okay, well, if it's okay, with all due respect, I'd like to finish my turn here.
Please do.
Okay, and lastly, that no rights have been waived here. Lots of rights were waived, and because this agreement was signed, in behind closed doors, the public has not had an opportunity to ever weigh in on this. So again, we really hope that the NP&EDC will do the right thing here and protect Nantucket. I think the number one mitigation that we should have had is that these turbines be moved out of the view shed. That would also push them way off Nantucket shoals and would help protect the critically endangered North Atlantic right whale. And, that doesn't ever seem to be what we're asking for. It seems like we'll go right to the economics and the financial settlement. And, money may be legally considered a mitigation, but it really isn't mitigating anything for, us down the road on this. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate your comments. Let me stop here. Mr. Cook, I thought you had a 5:30 hard stop. Yeah, I see you decided that it's your prerogative. You're
Sure.
muted. Are you around for a few moments still?
You can't hear him.
You're still muted, sir.
I'm trying to be helpful, and
I know.
didn't know that a couple questions were coming up. I do have to.
Did you want to respond to anything so
Yeah,
far?
I'll respond briefly. So I disagree with the characterization that the town is gagged and that no one is doing anything and the public can't participate. There's nothing stopping the public from participating in any environmental review process that's ongoing. The town, when it negotiated the Good Neighbor Agreement, was addressed with the Vineyard Wind project, was addressing the project that had the closest visual impacts to Nantucket. These projects that are going to follow are never going to be closer than the Vineyard Wind project, and in fact are further offshore. And it is true that while the turbines will likely be actually taller, they are not going to appear taller. And if we're concerned with adverse visual impacts, that's what we have to focus on. And we have verified this with our visual simulations and landscape architect expert, and have been assured that the Vineyard Wind Northeast turbines, as well as other projects, are going to be less visible than Vineyard Wind. The last point I'd add is that we're keenly aware of the cumulative impacts from the Vineyard Wind projects as well as other projects. And I just wanted to let you know that Holly and Lauren and members of the select board and my law firm are continuing to review very carefully all of these projects to make sure that the interests of Nantucket with respect to historic properties, which is what the Section 106 process is all about, are adequately addressed. It is not possible to move the turbines out of view. That is simply not possible. These lease areas were created at a time 10, 12 years ago, and those lease areas have been fixed for that time. So that's what we're dealing with. We didn't have the ability to advocate for lease areas to be pushed away, and these lease areas were auctioned off. They're rights that developers have that were, auctioned by the federal government. And we are advocating strongly on behalf of the town, using all possible levers available to the town through the Section 106 process. We would encourage all members of the public, residents and property owners, business owners in Nantucket, to participate on their own as interested members of the public. And if there are legal and economic interests such that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management would recognize the ability to participate as a consulting party, everyone is free to do that. I just wanted to make that clear. We knew enough at the time, the town knew enough at the time when the Good Neighbor Agreement was being negotiated to address what these adverse visual effects are going to be. The Section 106 process has a very, kind of narrow lane that relates to avoidance, minimization, and mitigation of adverse effects. And there's no requirement that anything be minimized if it's mitigated. We were able to achieve minimization of adverse visual effects as well as mitigation. And yes, it's true. There have been a couple other communities with land-based impacts that have land disturbing activities and, transmission stations that might be built that may have negotiated a higher dollar amount, but those dollar amounts are going to be paid out over the next 20 to 30 years. And if you discount those to present value, that certainly would amount to something less than what was made available to Nantucket. But I don't want to get in the business of comparing what one community got versus another community when it's apples and oranges. Those communities were not interested in negotiating the kind of agreement that the town was able to negotiate that has protected your rights, is protecting your rights, and hasn't precluded anyone from continuing to advocate on behalf of the town. So I just wanted to make that absolutely clear. And I do have to drop off. If other questions arise, I'd be happy to answer them. Please let Holly know. I'd be happy to respond tomorrow. And you're here at future meetings if it would be helpful to answer questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nat, did you have something?
No, I just was gonna make a comment. I didn't know he was coming back on.
Neither did
Neither did
I.
anybody, but
Anyways,
that's just part of things, the way things are today.
Absolutely.
So I just want to bring up something else. It has nothing to do with this, but it does in the sense of the climate policy stuff is the building. There's an article for the stretch code on town meeting this year, and I've been to some of the meetings about it. And the lady from the state that was on that meeting it was an unbelievable back and forth with her, this woman named Lisa, I forgot her last name. She basically made it where if you even question this new stretch code, she actually made a comment that I can't believe Nantucket would think of pulling out of the stretch code because they're not going to be able to get to the steamboat wharf in the future. So the motivation behind this stuff is not going away. This is where we are with the federal government, the state, with climate stuff. They want this stuff. They're going to push it to the gas pedal to the floor until they get what they want. So I hate to say it, when Mr. Foley says that individual citizens can fight this, that's kind of crazy. I mean, that's like swatting one heck of a big fly with a small fly swatter. I can tell you that. There's no way to fix that. So I think that, government agencies, whether it's the select board, whether doesn't matter. Any agency is put in a position where they have to say yes to these things. And that's where we are. And it's very unfortunate, but that's where we are. This is not like the original Cape Wind, the time where things were then. The ocean plan was 2008. I think that's what he was talking about, Leslie, wasn't he? When they did the whole mapping out the lease areas. I'm pretty sure that's what he meant, that Ocean Act. And, people forget that, but that's when that was. And I just, I can see why people are getting upset about it because it's sort of happening by itself. But that's what's going on. Turn on the TV. That's what's going on. So this is just part of it. And these things will work or they won't. And somebody will be dealing with it if it doesn't, I can tell you that. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Did you have anyone else up there?
Yeah, I do have someone on Zoom. Danielle Sparks.
Hi,
Hi.
hi. Thank you for letting me say something. I'm a part-time resident in Nantucket. I've been watching this for a couple years, and periodically I've tried to inquire as to, why would Nantucket let this happen, and who in their, I don't mean to be, I don't mean to say something negative, but who would allow, how could the town allow this to happen? And I started to understand it really wasn't the town that was driving it. The state and federal powers were forcing it to happen. And what kind of seemed like Nantucket had no ability to stop it, so might as well collect some money and agree to this kind of a support policy or whatever it is. But I have to tell you, it's so sad to me what I've seen things like this happen before, and I believe it's going to be so detrimental to Nantucket, and I do think in 30 years, because economically these things don't carry their weight, so somebody's going to have to pay to clean the whole thing up. But you're going to go, Nantucket's going to go through 30 to 40 years of interruption. And the reason I'm a part-time resident in Nantucket, I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And to let this happen, and I guess the point, and I think the point was just being made, Nantucket doesn't really have a choice. But is it really worth accepting the money to not make it clear what's really happening against the whole town's best interest? And I'm trying to figure out, is there anything that can be done to preserve nature and the beauty of Nantucket and what people care about? If the town of Nantucket voted, I think there'd probably be I think this thing, nobody would support this. And is it just, in my view, I understand agreements people have to bond by, but at some point you look at an agreement and say, hey, this thing is just so bad for everybody. Let's give the money back and let's be really open about what's happening. So I just asked the question about, do people consider at some point things are going so potentially negative for Nantucket and its people that maybe taking a different path? And I appreciate you all taking the time to let me speak. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anyone else up there? No,
Me, just one quick comment.
I'll give you a minute, sure.
Thank you. I understand everyone's being told there's nothing we can do, and I know the government agencies have their rules and regulations. But it really saddens me to see everyone give up so easily. And what I mean by that is, we live in a democracy where there's opposing sides of any argument, and it seems like we are becoming more and more just willing to concede anything that we have, because that's the way the government is telling us to do things, and they're not always right. And that's all I have to say.
She's right. All right. Thank you. Thanks for. Wendy, go ahead.
I'll just speak up because I am in favor of wind power, so I didn't want to.
We need the information.
All right,
Yeah.
through the chair. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think.
No, please.
I just wanted to say that this isn't a situation where everybody's rolling over for something.
Mhm.
There are reasons to believe in be optimistic about the positive impacts it could have, just because the power that we've been living on is invisible. We haven't seen it, but we're seeing the effects of climate change every day, so I think there's an opposing viewpoint that needs to be represented and acknowledged.
Thank you.
I do have two more hands on Zoom.
Okay,
Galen Gardner.
go ahead.
Hello.
Hi, Galen.
Hi. I just kind of wanted to add my voice on the side of things here. Sorry, I've not been listening. There was other things going on in my life prior to this meeting that I couldn't get away from. I just really struggle with this whole good neighbor agreement that was signed where we didn't really have anything to say as a public body. And, before I did any sort of real serious thinking about renewable energy, I just thought, oh, it's all good. But then when you start doing some research on it, it really isn't all good. And I really hope that, I'm certainly in favor of looking at alternative energy, absolutely. But at the same time, I really don't know if destroying the seabed and doing all the things that we're currently doing is the answer. And I don't see that from what I've read that the electricity is going to get less expensive from doing this. I think there's a lot of other problems going on. And, thinking about, for example, avian bird flu and how it's crashing, animal populations, some sea lions and seals and all other sorts of things here. I just don't know if this is the greatest thing, and I would certainly hope that we don't do anything more like good neighborhood agreements. And I also do think that, we live in the United States. We can change laws in this country. And there's plenty of them that should be changed, and sadly, it's often an uphill battle. But I just think that this is a pretty destructive project, and I don't see as that Nantucket is a winner. I've heard over and over again that Nantucket doesn't even get any of the energy from these projects. So, again, I'm disappointed mostly in the Good Neighbor Agreement and that there was no public discourse prior to that being signed. Thanks.
Thank you. Who else do you have there?
I have three more.
There we go.
Well, Amy DeCivio.
She'll have to wait. She's
Then I
already
put that on
commented.
that. I have Victoria Bridges.
All right, let's bring her over, please.
Victoria, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi.
Hi, yes.
Hi. Hi, Dave. How are you? So I think one of the questions I have about Vineyard Wind is the promises that they made that they really still haven't complied with. Number one, the aircraft detection system, they promised it. It's not been installed. I don't know when it's going to be installed, but it seems to me that interested parties like Mariah Mitchell, who signed the Good Neighbor Agreement, should be very worried about the fact that these lights are blinking all night long. I think that's the number one thing they promised, and they haven't made good on it. Secondly, they said that the turbines would be barely visible from the beach. And anyone who's been on any beach in Cisco or anywhere around Nantucket can clearly see the turbines. So what they've promised us in the past seems to have kind of fallen, and now they're going to build even higher turbines. That it just doesn't make sense to me that we can't really trust them. I don't think that they're making good on what they promised us, and therefore I don't really think that it makes any sense to continue a Good Neighbor Agreement with them. That's all I have to say.
All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Who else did you have?
Veronica Bonnet.
Bring her on over, please.
Hi, how are you? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your time. I am also coming on to the meeting a little late. My apologies. I was on a flight and just landed. But I did hear the chair, I think it was the chair, say that she was in favor of wind energy. And I think that that's, in my opinion, missing the point. The point is this a good deal for Nantucket? Whether there's wind energy or not, whether Nantucket signs up for this agreement, continues not advocating for itself or not, the wind energy is going to happen, whether south of Nantucket or on land or somewhere else. And that's not what this is about. This is about Nantucket putting the interests of a foreign energy giant ahead of its citizens, ahead of its people. Nantucket not informing its people. I'm sure it was already discussed that there's a meeting tonight for BOEM. I was able to go to one last week. This meeting conflicts with it. All of the people speaking here, including the planning people, should be hearing directly from the developers and from BOEM about how this impacts us. I'm for affordable housing, but we're not going to build a 20-story high-rise in the middle of Nantucket because that's what we think is the right thing to do. No, we have to do things that are the right thing for Nantucket. And I think that the correspondence included in this packet was shocking, that the Planning and Economic and Development Committee for Nantucket would be directed not to advocate for Nantucket. It's shocking. And it is also shocking that there's no mention of this particular project on the town website, which is supposed to be informing people about what's happening. It really gives the impression that Nantucket is trying to sneak this through and hope everybody wouldn't notice. Why wouldn't it be on the website? You don't even have the project name right on the Offshore Wind Group website. Anyway, that's really all I have to say, but it's upsetting that a few people 5 years ago sold Nantucket's right to advocate for itself for basically what's not a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else?
No, she lowered her hand.
Okay, great. Anyone else on the commission?
Oh.
Oh,
She raised it.
oh, well, I'm still gonna turn.
Same person?
commissioners for.
I don't think you meant to do that. Sure.
All right, so who's up now? One more.
DeCivio.
All right, so let me give you a minute, please bring her over.
Amy, you have a minute.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I accidentally hit my phone and took my hand down. Sorry for the confusion. Can you hear me right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just also wanted to clear up two things, and thanks again for giving me another minute. I think one of the things that we keep hearing, or that everyone seems to believe, is that Nantucket was lucky to get the agreement that they got, and that we were lucky to secure that amount of money. And you know, that this was a done deal and this was happening, and we were sort of running after them, hoping to settle and get some more money, and that we did this great negotiating job. And I would suggest it's actually the opposite, that Vineyard Wind got lucky. They were not going to be able to get a record of decision, and likely not their financial close, without the Good Neighbor Agreement. The environmental impact statement is clear that the impact on Nantucket, a national historic landmark, is major. And they would not have been able to proceed without that Good Neighbor Agreement being signed. Anyway, I think that I'll just leave it at that. But I just think that it's important that everyone understands that signing that agreement was, you know, is problematic for the future projects. And lastly, just to tag onto one other quick thing, as far as climate change, you know, we're all concerned about climate change. Everyone is. But if you read through the documents, you will see that even with the full build out of all of this, that the impacts on climate change will be so small, they're negligible. It's in the documents. So there's a trade-off here that really needed to be studied much more carefully by the federal government, but also, you know, on a more local basis. So I just hope that we can get some, better advice going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, Holly. Hi. I see.
Hi,
Did
Mr.
you
Chair.
raise- Did you raise your hand purposely, or
I did actually.
do you want
I
to
guess-
comment? And then I just want to follow through a little bit with
I-
your comments.
I did. Thank you,
Please.
Mr. Chair. As your representative for Section 106 as a town's preservation planner, obviously I take heart to Section 106 and 110F of the National Historic Preservation Act. And there are some misleading information that's going around. We have probably the best expert counsel that's on our side. I think there's people that spoke today that wouldn't agree with that. The town, obviously, as you know, through the Good Neighbor Agreement, negotiated directly with Vineyard Wind. If we actually did the regular consultation with Boehm, we would have gotten nothing, nil. So I think it's important to acknowledge what the Good Neighbor Agreement has done. And a matter of fact, it's if we've got other first of all, I want to make it clear that the Good Neighbor Agreement is for Vineyard Wind's project. So I think there's 5 different projects total. I think actually the organization that Val represents, I think has a good map on their social media pages. But it does not include other developments that are proposed along the eastern seaboard. And one benefit that Nantucket does have is Section 110F of the National Historic Preservation Act, where these cumulative effects on all of the wind farms onto Nantucket is what needs to be provided through that review process. I think people also don't realize that Vineyard Wind was the first. This is the unprecedented development off our coast that the town of Nantucket had no process being involved with. Federal government developed the waters off of our coast. And so now we have this law under Section 106 because we're a historic and national historic district that allows us to be consulting parties through this development. Otherwise, we wouldn't really have a voice. I encourage our website, the work group. I encourage the members of the public, anybody who's concerned, the commissioners, to take a look at it. We're always updating it, trying to get accurate information. There are information that we're trying to make sure that Vineyard Wind, through the Good Neighbor Agreement, provides to the town from our expert council and their council, having that liaison relationship with, because again, if this was something that went through the process without it, we wouldn't have that. Boehm obviously is they're difficult to, in my personal opinion, to deal with. And again, there's other developments that are going through the pipeline. We could be they could be asking for or wanting to mitigate other aspects that wouldn't be a Good Neighbor Agreement. However, a Good Neighbor Agreement will allow us to put funding that the developer would provide to preservation related projects. So I just, as your Section 106 rep, I attend all the other meetings that are other developers, Beacon, there's a whole bunch that are been coming through the pipeline, and making sure that they're aware that we are adamant on making sure that the National Historic Landmark is protected, undue harm as best as possible. So I guess I'll leave it at that and answer any questions. And if there's any questions that you'd like me to forward on to Will, I will. Thank you.
So Holly, I'm going to take it that most of the things that we've talked about today are going to be forwarded to him. Could you just provide the public or anyone else who's listening at this point the best way to give you any additional feedback or comments that they may have?
They can email me at hbackus at nantucket-ma.gov, and I'd be more than happy to forward that on to CHP.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Right. We good there, commissioners? I just got one little
Okay,
side note.
go ahead. I'll let you have your side note.
Holly, where are you, Holly?
She's there.
I'm here.
You know, I was just thinking about the other elephant in the room, slowing down the boats to 10 knots for 6 months.
Okay,
Saves-
let's stick on the subject.
No, I am,
Okay,
because she, you know, when you mentioned Boehm and these big, huge agencies like NOAA is pushing that. So in other words, what I'm saying is not having a say, that could happen. Okay, and this is similar, like you don't have the say that you think you have, you really don't. When it's something this big, that far offshore, outside into the federal waters. And meanwhile, they're working on actually thinking about, even suggesting slowing the boats down for 6 months and having no fast ferries in the off season. I think that would wake up a lot of people, way beyond the windmills. I can tell you that, because this place would close. So when people mention our organization here as if we're like, have all this incredible authority, which we don't have, it's frustrating because I know that's the perception that people have, and it's been sort of said enough in the last few years to where a lot of people believe that we actually are regulatory and have a lot of power.
Yep.
And we don't. But having said that, I think we are in an unusual spot when you have federal agencies that are doing things that you really, you're just a little tiny fish in a huge pond trying to fix this. And I just, you know, I'm as concerned about this as anybody, but I'm concerned with the way it happens more than I am about the actual, you know, wind energy issue versus just how this can actually get done so easily. We can't extend the geotubes, but we can have this happen, no problem. It's amazing. Okay. So I thought I'd throw that in, Holly, about NOAA, because nobody will be caring too much if the boats go 10 knots and for 6 months a year. I can tell you that. So thank you.
I agree with you, Nat.
Thank you,
Agree.
Holly, for what you do, by the way. I know that you're
thank
sort
you.
of
Yeah.
doing a lot of things behind the scenes with all this stuff.
Thank you.
For you, Mr. Chair, I do have 2 persons in the public, and then I also have Bert Johnson on commission.
All right. Ms. Burris? Hi.
Hi, a question for Holly through you, Mr. Chairman. This booster station that shows on that map, south of Tuckernuck, how big is that and how tall would it be? Are we gonna see that as if it was an ocean liner out there?
That is a very good question, and I will make sure that that is addressed with the Vineyard Winds attorneys. I can find that out.
Thank you, Holly.
No problem.
Who else have you got from there? Please.
I just have one now. He did, oh, never mind, I have 2. So Daniel Sparks and Veronica Bernini.
They both want to comment? Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute each, if you would, please.
Okay. Daniel, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, I had spoke earlier and I have a suggestion. It's not it has nothing to do with whether wind is good or if this is good for Nantucket or any of that. But I think it'd be very helpful to the citizens of Nantucket to release a 5-minute video that describes exactly how this came to pass, meaning the windmills, who approved it. And I would think you'd state that Nantucket did not approve it. Who approved it? And then what did Nantucket actually do? And what the Good Neighbor Agreement provides for. I just think it would help a lot of people understand the mechanics of the decision and what's happening and who really has the power and what Nantucket has agreed to and not agreed to make it clear that, hey, Nantucket didn't vote for this stuff. This is how it happened. And this is what the representatives of the people of Nantucket have agreed to. I think that would be incredibly helpful to so many people because so many people just don't understand how this could happen and what's going on. And again, not being subjective about whether wind power is good or bad or this is good for the environment, just literally the mechanics of how this came to pass and what's happening. I think that would really help citizens of Nantucket. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Veronica, you have 1 minute.
Hi, just real quick, I want to say two things. One, yes, the substations are the size of ocean liners. Two, all of the wind turbines will be lit 24/7 for marine interests, whether they have aircraft detection lighting on them or not. And three, the summary tables about adverse impacts make it clear that they are major for all of the projects. And those summary tables should be shared with the people on Nantucket. They should be on the Offshore Wind Work Group webpage. And the fact that they are major is the reason the Good Neighbor Agreement did not need to be signed. And the fact that these projects have grown so much since it was signed is the reason to take a relook at it. It was signed in the middle of COVID in the hopes that nobody would really know what was going to happen. And it really needs to be relooked at. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. All right. Closing comments?
I think that Daniel Sparks' point was valid. I don't know if it should come from us, it's the town. And, but it does make sense and probably should happen through that attorney or consultant or whatever.
Yeah, and I think Holly's gonna make sure that comment is duly noted as well too. I would agree with you on that. All right. Hearing nothing else, we'll move on. Yep, on the same subject.
I guess I'm unclear how long the Good Neighbor, apologize.
No, that's okay. It's just.
How long is that Good Neighbor Agreement in effect? Is it the length of?
Holly,
maybe you know?
and then Dawn's got her hand up too. Dawn may know as well, since it's a select board. Go ahead.
To answer that question, I believe the Good Neighbor Agreement is for the life cycle of the wind farm, which is 30 years.
Dawn?
No, it's not. It's like 10 minutes.
Yes, and no. Let's not go back and forth though. Dawn?
Yes, I mean, I believe that that's correct. I was just raising my hand because I just was off the boat and able to talk.
Yeah.
I just, it's really distressing, the characterization that's being put on the select board for this. It was not done under the cover of COVID. It was not done in any way that didn't put this out to the public at the time that it could be put out. But we hired this firm and really worked with them to get the best deal that we possibly could for Nantucket in a situation where these leases were already in place by the federal government and were going to happen regardless of us. And we didn't have the.
I think we lost you.
She fell
Yep.
Okay, she's halfway home.
That
was actually.
Did you guys? I lost you. Did you guys lose me?
No, we did.
I don't know.
You cut out halfway mid-sentence.
Oh well, where was I?
Got the best deal of Nantucket that he possibly could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was nothing unintentional to not. There was nothing intentional to not argue this over a dollar figure. We got the turbines moved back. They are going to have to comply with the aviation lighting sensors, and we'll definitely follow up with Will Cook on that. And I mean, just there are some things in this that do tie our hands, and we didn't have the ability to get to further negotiate by having a transmission line coming to the island, which would have given us a little bit more leverage. Our leverage was really about being the historic landmark. And I think that we did get some benefits, and we did the best that we could for the island with the best advisors in this field.
John, are you still there? Can I ask you something?
Yeah, I'm here.
Barry just left. What did you think about what Daniel Sparks said? Or did you hear that? Or you might have been getting off the boat.
It's been a little bit hard to keep on
Yeah.
everything, but
No.
what was his final comment?
His comment was actually similar to what you're doing right now, just out of your head. Is explaining in some sort of, I guess, a FAQ.
Oh yeah,
sort of
he
thing.
he was talking about doing an
Or
informational video, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I think
that-
that's not a bad idea. I'll bring it up with Libby on Wednesday.
I think it makes sense because,
Because this also happened quite a while ago now.
yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad thing to bring it back up.
Yeah, John, you may want to circle Holly into that conversation as well, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think given.
Yeah, Holly, why don't we get an email between you and Libby and myself and the vice chair of the board.
We'll do that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So,
go ahead and then I'll go to Seth.
So just quickly, I mean, I was on the Concom and I think it was like 2016, we heard this. So this is like coming out of nowhere, left field, and we weighed in on it. And then there's still a Concom member that is on the work group. So I think that we still have people involved trying to move this forward and watch out for our best interest. So I feel that there's some negative comments that are undue. We've all been working hard. I think this is a good thing for the town of Nantucket in some ways. So, and I was out there in Cisco this morning and I saw a crane, but I wasn't disturbed by it, sadly. Yep, by something. So.
Seth? Hi.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't think I was going to say anything, but here we go. So first of all, the Good Neighbor Agreement isn't some secret document. It's publicly available on the town's website for anyone to read. It clearly lays out all the responsibilities of all parties, both the town parties and the Vineyard Wind parties. And like Mr. Topham saying, the Conservation Commission, to the extent that it has authority over our local jurisdictional waters, has heard multiple permit applications in the last 5 years for various projects, some of them Vineyard Wind, some of them not. And the level of discourse and the level of questioning has been intense. I mean, we just hear that the application for 5 minutes and then get over it. These have been multiple month-long processes with rigid conditions. I mean, we don't have authority at the Concom over the actual turbine locations, but over the offshore export cables, there's been a lot of discussion. And I would just say too, the NP and EDC's role is to be advisory, as others have said. It's to give the appropriate agencies in town government the data and the tools it needs to make informed decisions. Our job isn't to say whether we should support offshore wind or not. Our job isn't to say whether we should complain about specific projects or not. Our job is to monitor and analyze and provide data for other bodies to make those assessments. So, I mean, we've had an hour of conversation about this, and I appreciate the public discourse. But with respect, I think that conversation is much better for other entities, the select board, the Concom, the state entities involved like CCM, and the federal entities involved like BOEM. I appreciate that people are coming here, but we're limited in what we can do about this compared to other entities. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just let the commission know that myself and Lauren, as the town's liaisons for the work group, offshore wind work group, are actually sent out a meeting invitation to those consulting parties and stakeholders that are listed on the town's website, along with CHP. CHP is going to basically be the spokesperson on this, but they're going to be providing a update as well as specific updates on the wind projects that are through the pipeline right now, and then answer any questions ahead of especially town meeting if there's any questions on that. And this is something, it's obviously, it's not for the public, but it's for those entities that are listed on the website, and hopefully we'll get people to, you know, be all on the same page, hopefully, or if not, have questions answered. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was coming down the road.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. I think we've fleshed that conversation out a bit. Good, it was good dialogue. Fantastic. All right, so that moves us on to public comment for items not included on the agenda. Let me just give 1 minute. See if anyone raises their hand. That is a no. All right. So you have minutes from March 18th and March 25th, 2024. Are there any errors, omissions, or changes that need to take place? Hearing none, I move approval of both sets. All right, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Roll call vote. Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Knoll.
Aye.
Joe Topham.
Nikki, great work. Aye.
Don Hill-Hoge. May or may not be around. Seth Engelboard.
Aye.
Bert Johnson.
Aye.
Christina Jelemy.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative as well. Both sets of minutes are approved. Okay. Unanimously. That brings us to transportation action discussion items. It's Mike Burns time one more time. Mike, welcome. First thing before us is the Massachusetts 2050 Transportation Plan Beyond Mobility. There's a public comment period ending May 5th. So Mike, I'm going to cue that up for you, and if you'd be so kind, welcome.
Thank you, and thanks. I'm just going to let Raisa do the presentation for MassDOT, and just apologize for taking the items a little bit out of order, Raisa, for this, and thanks for sticking around to give this information to the commission. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. Next slide, please. So my name is Raisa Kwame, and I'm excited to share with you all an update on our statewide long-range transportation plan, Beyond Mobility. This is an important plan for us at MassDOT, as it will inform future planning and programming efforts of the agency. Just for background, MassDOT is required by federal regulation to develop a statewide long-range transportation plan. Unlike long-range transportation plans, there is not a set update timeframe, but the last one was in 2014, so we felt we were overdue to update our strategic plan and direction. The current plan title refers to the idea that transportation is about more than just mobility for the sake of mobility. It is about accessing opportunity. Please note that the public comment period for the plan ends on May 31st. Next slide. To put the plan into context, it is part of a larger initiative we are calling MassDOT at 15, which is a series of initiatives that commemorate MassDOT turning 15 years old as we formed as a unified transportation agency in 2009. Beyond Mobility is the what aspect of the MassDOT at 15 initiative, as it defines what we do and our vision for the future. The strategic business plan will define workforce needs and staffing levels required to implement the next generation of transportation investments in Massachusetts. Next slide, please. The third component of the MassDOT at 15 is the Transportation Funding Task Force, which the governor recently developed and appointed our secretary to chair. This task force will meet monthly over the course of this year and constitutes the how of the MassDOT at 15 initiative, as it will define funding levels needed for implementing future investments and the Beyond Mobility vision. Next slide, please. It is important to note that Beyond Mobility is a strategic plan that sets a strategic direction. But the way it gets implemented is really through our programming documents and collaboration with MPO and municipal partners. The diagram on the right from an FHWA training defines this process flow. Beyond Mobility falls under the strategic directions section at the top of the diagram, but it requires the programming and investment planning efforts shown on the left side to implement the plan's vision and action items. Next slide, please. The Beyond Mobility plan relies heavily on public engagement. We wanted to make sure that what we are saying for the vision of the future of transportation is rooted directly in people's everyday challenges and visions for the future. To that end, we heard from thousands of residents from all over Massachusetts as part of the planning process. Through pop-up events like the one shown on the screen, several surveys, multilingual focus groups, public meetings, and other interactions. We also worked with partners at MassDOT and our partner agencies to make sure all perspectives were represented. Next slide, please. The public feedback we heard and analysis we conducted culminated in the development of these 6 priority areas: social and geographic equity, and financial and staffing resources were considered cross-cutting themes. What we heard falls under the umbrella of at least one of these priorities. Each priority area in the plan has with it a vision statement, set of value statements, problem statements, and key facts and action items. The final draft plan has over 100 action items identified across these priority areas. Next slide, please.
Risa, I think you actually talking to this one right here, just to be clear for the commissioners,
Yes.
that these are the focus areas, and I'll go to the safety slide now.
Thank you, Mike. The next slides describe a highlighted problem statement and corresponding action items. Although we have over 100 action items that you can view in the final plan in Chapter 5, these slides are meant to give you a flavor of what's in the plan. For safety, our problem statement is 142 of the top 200 pedestrian crash cluster locations are in environmental justice communities. Our action item here involves formalizing a program within our capital plan to ensure we are building a bench of safety projects in our gateway cities and in coordination with municipalities. Next slide, please.
But before I go to the next, I'll just call the commission's attention to the image on the slide, and that we're actually putting up one of those solar-powered speed feedback signs. So
Thank you, Mike.
thank you for letting me plug that.
For reliability, our highlighted problem is that people need to plan for commutes taking 8 times longer through using a tool known as the planning time index during peak periods than they do during free flow times. So we assess this through using a tool known as the planning time index. We heard from a lot of people on this topic, and there's a real sense of being at a crisis point through a combination of worsening congestion and transit delays. To respond to this, our action items in the plan involve improved coordination between our highway division and transit agency partners to develop roadway projects involving transit priority. We also have an action item calling for us to study congestion pricing as a starting point to understand all options available to us. The task force will be exploring this in depth. Next slide, please. With respect to clean transportation, we know that transportation is the largest contributor of Massachusetts carbon emissions, and transportation-related emissions are disproportionately concentrated in environmental justice communities. There has been a lot of work done on clean transportation in Massachusetts recently, including EEA's Clean Energy and Climate Plan, the Climate Chiefs Report, Resilient Mass, and others. To that end, we did not want to reinvent things like electrification targets. So those are stated in Beyond Mobility for consistency, along with other important items in those plans. One new item we are calling for is a study that would look at which areas we can improve the relationship between land use and transportation to ensure development and housing is truly transit-oriented, especially with new passenger rail options coming online like West East Rail, South Coast Rail, and potentially Northern Tier. Next slide, please. In the area of destination connectivity, we know that our EJ communities have fewer planned bicycle and pedestrian investments. To respond to this, we are calling for a dedicated program in our capital plan that would involve multimodal connections to transit, relying on gaps documented documented in our Next Gen Bicycle and Pedestrian Vision Initiative, which is an ongoing mapping effort. Next slide, please. For resiliency, in the plan, we document the number of roadway miles and transit assets at risk of being flooded at various levels. We know significant infrastructure is exposed to natural hazards like this. This image shown is from storms that hit north central Massachusetts in the fall of 2023, which washed away a lot of roadway infrastructure. Similar to clean transportation, a lot of work elsewhere in state government has taken place, namely Resilient Mass, which identified action items for MassDOT to take in the area of resiliency. So we cite those action items in the plan. One new item we are calling for is potentially cross-agency collaboration to provide MassDOT resources for projects submitted to but not able to be funded with MVP program funds, a program managed by EEA, in line with a whole government approach to tackle the climate crisis documented in the Climate Chiefs report. Next slide, please. The final area is travel experience, which refers to general ease of using the transportation system. In our outreach, we heard a ton of input from people with disabilities and those who speak English as a second language on the need for improving wayfinding and signage in proximity to transit. Sometimes just needing to know where the bus stop is located is crucial. To respond to this, we have an action item that would call for us to inventory the areas of highest need. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for your time. The comment period is ending May 31st, and there's more information on the website.
Great, thank you very much, I appreciate it. Mike, do you have anything you want to follow up on this?
I do. Let me stop sharing and share on this because I don't know if I'm doing this correctly. Share screen number 2, share. In your packet, there was a very rough exercise and my best attempt at trying to align the different priority areas and beyond mobility with our regional planning priorities. And there's a lump of spaghetti in the middle between the two. The idea is to maybe focus on the right-hand side of the chart here. And I'll just note that affordability was a very important goal for the Planning Commission, and there are a number of different priorities that I would say aren't directly addressed in Beyond Mobility, and perhaps Arisa could speak to just how affordability is in Beyond Mobility. And then for our reliability priorities, they were a little bit different from what were, not a little bit, a whole lot different than what was in Beyond Mobility with vehicle regulation and guaranteeing access on the ferry and those types of reliability topics. So I did share that with Risa before. I don't know if the commission has any comments on one. There's mostly a great deal of alignment between our regional priorities, but there are some missing connections for those. So I don't know if Risa wants to speak to any of those, or the commission would like to speak to any of those.
Commissioners? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Mike, we did the free fares, right? You got an X next to that. So isn't that supposed to be a check, or is that pending?
Well, for the red X, I would say that Beyond Mobility, the statewide plan, doesn't really, and I guess that's a question for Risa. Is there something in Beyond Mobility for free fares, since that is a state grant that's given to a lot of different regional agencies? But I didn't see that necessarily mentioned directly in the plan.
Yeah, so the plan explores a lot of different aspects of equity. So definitely, I know that affordability is part of equity. It's part of that aspect. So equity is a cross-cutting theme. So that's something that I would definitely mention in terms of answering that question.
Thanks. Still on deck?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
All right,
I mean, there's been so many things over the last 15 years that, like the complete streets thing, Mike, I see you have that in there. Where does that fit into this? Is that like sort of baked into this now, into the new beyond mobility? Because they come up with new terms for things, so you have to keep up with the new ones and don't forget the old ones. So the complete streets thing, it sounds to me that that's sort of like, moved into this. Would you say, for Nantucket at least, for what we've been doing with that?
Correct, and I want to say, and I'm going to try to answer this for Risa, but she can correct me if I'm wrong. The destination connectivity is where the complete streets are accommodating all modes and providing facilities for all users. That's where that would live. So that I tried to draw an arrow to where that kind of connected
Right.
with our priorities, and
It looks like a jet blue map there.
The good news is there's lots of arrows, so there's lots of connections with our priorities. It is kind of hard to follow, but just for the jargon and the terminology that we use, I would say destination connectivity is where the accessibility and complete streets policies would align. Am I wrong there, Marisa, or is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And then the last one, Mike, is the walkability thing around the schools. What was the actual technical name?
The safe routes to schools?
Safe routes there, that's right. That to me would be, something that should not be added to this somehow into the new language somewhere. Because, I mean, and this is where, everyone cringes because Nantucket is so unique. Like, we just ripped up Atlantic Ave for 5 months and we're not really fixing anything. We're just fixing what's under it, not what's on top of it. And it's right by the school because it's so complicated to do improvements, like move poles. Trees can't be cut down, make the sidewalk better. I mean, it's just, there's never an end to it. So I just wanted to ask you about throwing that in, or where that fits in, Mike. Stuff around the schools, and that's it for me.
Thank you, and Risa, help me out. I think that would live within the destination connectivity as well as that's an important node that you would want to link with all kinds of facilities or mobility options.
That's correct. And it also falls under safety in terms of the safe routes to school.
Thank you.
Perfect. Wendy, go ahead.
Forgive me if this is way outside the scope, but just the biggest issues of connecting is the bridges. I mean, is that at all? And the Cape bridges are such a gigantic importance there. And I guess also the high-speed ferries, but that's definitely not in the roadways. Is there some place that is in here that I missed?
Good point to bring up.
Yeah, so I would say that the Cape Bridges program remains a standalone program in and of itself, given the magnitude of funding. And so this is something that we continue to advance. I think that these cross-cutting beyond mobility priority areas are part of the Cape Bridges program, and therefore they align with that Cape Bridges program, and advancing those priorities will also be akin to advancing the Cape Bridges program.
Okay, I think knowing this is a long-range plan, that's a long-range project, but like the incredible importance for the Cape and Islands,
Right. And the second part was about the ferry system as well too, so.
I'm guessing that probably doesn't.
Well, let's.
Does it belong here? We should sing it loud and proud as Nat is bringing it up.
Yeah, I think it's just worth asking the question and getting an answer back.
Yeah, in terms of the ferries, that would definitely be part of a multimodal planning. So definitely in terms of travel experience, how people access different parts of Massachusetts, and also destination connectivity.
Great, I think the state is advocating for us, but we need to, the impact of losing those fast boats would be devastating.
And I think to a certain extent, you're right. The more and often that we raise these kind of things, it's important because the ferry, for instance, is our roadway when you think about it.
Yeah, it's our bridge, unless we put in one of those nice subways, but I think the MBTA is. I was like, oh yeah,
There we go.
our time is definitely 8 times longer.
Yeah, who else you got there?
I have Billy Cassidy.
Mr. Cassidy, hi.
Go ahead, Billy.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I just lowered my hand. You caught me in the nick of time, Nikki. I was going to ask a question, and then I just decided to shut up after after Wendy's very good series of questions. However, I've got a petty one. Mike, could you tell me more about this sign, where it is, when it's happening? Is it mandated? Do we really want something like this here if we can avoid it?
We have one. I think they took it down.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope you appreciate the interjection that I made during the presentation about the speed feedback sign. I assume that's what Ms. Cassidy is referring to. And just note that that sign was tested this winter on Milestone Road, which is a state highway, which is exempt from LED signage. And that it was a Milestone Road at New Street. So that test period is over. It was subsequently got a permit through Mass DOT to install a permanent sign there, and that has been purchased and will be installed. I can't really give a date, but it was delivered last week, so I would assume sometime this week or next week.
I don't care so much about the eastern provinces. They can have their stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Mike, where do we need to head to?
Mr. Chair, as Risa mentioned, the public comment period for the statewide plan has been extended through May 31st. If you would like, I could try to codify some bullet points that I think I hear right now into a comment letter that the NPDC could vote on at their May 20th meeting and provide that by the public comment period deadline. And I think I'm hearing that you would like to see facilities kind of broken out a little bit better in the plan, and to discuss each of the planning priorities. Facilities meaning ferry operations, air operations, and public transportation. Just so we're not just so highway and transit oriented, that we look at the whole breadth of transportation modes as part of the effort, which I believe this plan does, is just more explicitly calling out ferry operations and some of the other operations that are important to the islands.
Great. Could you do me a favor and stop your screen share for a minute? I want to get back just to be able to see the rest of the day. Thank you, sir. So, does that sound like a reasonable plan to everyone here and board members on Zoom as well too? I'll just take that as kind of a unanimous consent at the moment that we'll move ahead. Mike will do a summary for us. You'll get an opportunity to look at that, and then we'll formalize it on our May 20th meeting. We all good?
Yeah, and the May 31st date is already in.
Right, that's already baked into it at the moment, so realistically, we'll have a few days under which to do it. And if they have anything else, or if you have anything else, please contact Mike directly. Good. All right, Mike, we're gonna move on to the next thing, unless there's anything else you have on this.
No, Mr. Chair, the next item is related to the current year Transportation Improvement Program, the FY 24 to 28 TIP. As you know, at your last meeting, you authorized a public review period for amendment number 3, which was to add 1.7 million to the Milestone Road and Pulpus Road projects using the region's funding target and using about $1.1 million in statewide safety improvement funding. I won't go over this necessarily, but just let you know that the project does align with public transportation, sidewalk, and paths, and improves reliability and operations of an intersection, which is aligned with your planning priorities. It also adds funding for electric vehicle infrastructure and purchasing of 2 additional electric demand response vans and 6 biodiesel buses. Just to show you the imagery on the left is the Gillig biodiesel bus, is the best picture I could find. And shamelessly, I added another picture. It has nothing to do with amendment number 3, but it's the BRAP that's going to go on the EGES bus, which was purchased through amendments 1 and 2. And that's what the wrapping will look like for this season, showing the electric feature. And it was very important to the NRTA, the Brant Point, the
windmills in the picture though.
but lighthouses with lightning. I think that was kind of fun. Anyway, shamelessly included that just because I had it and wanted to include it. We did receive public comments for amendment number 3. 63 respondents logged onto the website. About half of them actually answered and commented on the amendments. We had 23 positive and 15 negative responses for the Milestone Pulpus Road amendments. The biggest concern there is the improvement was not necessary. For the transit upgrades and purchases, 20 positive, 17 negative. The negative responses basically focused on that all the fuels that should be used should be electric and not necessarily biodiesel, and that the buses should be not replaced at such a frequent pace, that they should be used for longer periods of time, which I'll just note that they are beyond their useful life and they needed to be replaced. So this is public comments that we did receive through our public comment portal. Mr. Chair, we are still technically in the public review period. This public meeting serves to collect any last public comments from the public. And I'll just note that staff recommends that you approve amendment number 3 to the FFY 2024-28 Transportation Improvement Program. And I'm happy to answer any other questions from you all or from the public.
So is there anything else that anyone here?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Dave.
Through you to Mike, will we have a chance to review all the comments?
Yes, I can provide them. They actually weren't in the meeting packet, but I can get those exported out to you if that's something. I was trying to distill them down, but I can provide those if that's something the commission wishes.
I mean, I just think it would be helpful to see, to understand, but I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks.
But the period, when does this have to be summarized by and ready to go? I'm taking April 22nd, as soon as we close the public comment period. Is that correct? Or is there a little bit of leeway in between with this, Mike?
Well, one, I would ask if that's critical to review the comments prior to approving, and 2, I would say that we did advertise that we would close the amendment period today. I'm not sure what the ramifications are if we don't do it today.
I still want to see.
He's just talking about information.
Yeah.
Mike, and also to add to what Dave said, are you helping with the current stuff when they do them surveys? Because that's good stuff. When that gets done, are you doing some of that stuff, or are they doing it themselves?
Would you say the current? You mean the Nantucket Current?
Yeah, they
that's
did another
their
survey
own...
the other day, and they seem to have an awful lot of information that I would think that you've been providing, or somebody is, or are they just getting it off the websites and all the DOT stuff?
Yeah, I think they do more polling than we do surveying, where we like to get a little demographic information. We do formal surveys. I think what they do is polling, and it's not necessarily, they don't ask my opinion before they issue that out, but I agree that it is helpful to kind of inform all of us.
I think so too. And that's one of the things I want to bring up onto other business, but I just wanted to throw that in since Dave asked about it, which was one of my questions later, was the survey stuff is better today than it ever was, because there's so much engagement in that type of stuff. Like, it's easy for people to weigh in. People would rather do that than come to a meeting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when it's the right topic to talk about. So I think it's important for us, because the roundabout issues, things that are said about whether it be the improvements that we don't need or we do need, or that kind of thing. We've been through this for years, and we've only built one roundabout since 2007. So it's kind of amazing that it's taken this long to sort of get things back rolling in that department, after it's 20 times more expensive. But that's just how we are. So are you looking for a motion, Mike?
Well,
or what are we looking for?
Find out if there's any further things that many of the commissioners that beyond
We
just
have to
wanting to
close
get,
the period first.
I understand that.
That's
Let me
right, I'm
just-
sorry.
Yeah, let me just find out where we're at. Let's just check back in one more time. Because I can't quite, nothing on your end, Nikki, right? Perfect, okay. So Mike, close the public comment period, yes, sir?
Yes, please. And just for Mr. Iverson's comment, I'll be sure to export out those comments so that you actually see not the distilled version, but the actual listing of comments and for future meetings.
All right, and besides closing the public comment period, is there anything, any other action beyond that that you need to approve the amendment number 3 tonight too?
Yes, please.
All right, so let's do this in 2 motions at this point. So unless there's anything else, take a motion to close the public comment period.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, roll call vote. Dave Iverson,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
thank you, Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Christina Jelmy,
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative at this point. So next thing is to approve the Highway and Transit Program Amendment number 3. Take a motion to that effect, if you're all, unless you need something else to do with it.
So moved.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion on anything?
Mr. Chair, I
Yeah,
have
please,
one
that's
comment.
okay, yeah.
Although I understand there was only 63 responses, it still was a half and half, positive, negative.
Mhm.
So it, back to your point of reading them, or back to Nat's point of the current, it seems that it would be prudent to try to get more involvement so that we can have that.
Yeah.
Because you can't weigh it on just 63 people after all the work that's been done.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it seems that we're not getting out to the public in order to get their support in our decision making. So just a note for future, for Mike Burns, or maybe getting on the current and trying to get the information out there to the public. Because looking at this demographic, it doesn't seem like we have the public support.
It's a continued struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
She's saying some things I want to bring up later, and I think it's really important. So
All right, because yeah, I kind of want to go back in and address the survey issue a little bit too, so we can bring that up on another business, if you're all good with that. But what's before you right now is to make a decision as to whether you want to approve amendment number 3 of the Highway and Transit Program. Is there any other discussion on that? No, thank you. All right, so roll call vote at this point. Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Christina Jelmy,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Seth Engelborg,
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you, everyone. Okay, Mike, draft FY 2025 to 29 tip authorized release for a 21-day public review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a lot of this material was shared with you all at your last month's meeting as a preview of our tip development scenario planning effort. This meeting is intended to briefly review that material and to authorize public review of the draft tip. So for the highway program, and just for your knowledge and the public's knowledge, we do have Barbara LaChance and Risa Kwame from Mass DOT here to address any questions that I'm maybe not the best person to answer. But for the next fiscal year, 2025, we have 2 projects, which is to program the grant funding that we received, the 3rd round of grant funding that we received for the Wabanet multi-use path, as well as provide the supplemental funding or the advanced construction, 2nd phase of advanced construction funding for the Milestone Road and Pulpus Road intersection improvement, which also includes the extension of the bike path along the north side of the road. I will note that there's no other projects in future years for 26 through 29. That funding, which right now it is over 500, almost $600,000, we could flex that over to the transit operations for additional transit improvements to be less to lessen the burden on state discretionary capital. And I'll also note that there are 3 other Milestone Road projects that are initiating design: the Milestone Rotary, the Milestone at Noble Farm Road intersection, and the widening of Milestone Road from the Rotary to New South Road to I believe it's 24 feet as approved by town meeting. Moving on, and here's the map of those improvements. The areas there in blue showed areas under design. I just mentioned the 3 different projects, and then the area in red that's circled there is the project that's going to bid this summer, at Milestone Road at Pulpus Road, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with that project. For the transit program, I did this consolidate all years into funding categories, which includes workforce housing as the top expenditure, as well as operations, and then continued replacement of the fleet, as we've been doing in recent years. And there's the very difficult to read listing of those projects for the transit program. This material is in your packet, as well as the draft Transportation Improvement Program document. Staff is proposing that we initiate the public review period starting this Friday and conclude it at your May 20th NPDC meeting and collect any last public comments before taking action on the final document. The communication staff is assisting with notifications, and we, as always, have the tip on the public review platforms on Zen City. Staff is requesting that the NPDC authorize a public review period for the draft FFY 2025 to 2029 Transportation Improvement Program from April 26th to May 20th, 2024, with a public meeting for discussion and action at your May 20th, 2024 meeting at 5 p.m. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone on the commission have any questions of Mr. Burns?
Oh, just a quick question. I'm sorry, Barry.
Sorry.
Mike, this is one of my other comments, but I want to do it now because you're bringing it all up. So the width of Sconset Road, I refuse to say Milestone, is really narrow. And it's similar issue as Cape Bridges. It's 20 feet, Mike, really, in most places, traveled way. I've actually been out there with a tape measure on a very slow days and done that, and can't believe how narrow it is. I want to ask you, because when this all got brought up, when traffic safety way back when we brought that up and you were there, about the near accident coming out of Bunker Road, the head-on that almost happened. I want to ask you, is there a plan for them to create like a little half moon, quarter moon thing as you pull out of Bunker to turn left? Has that been brought up by the state or you or somebody? Because there needs to be a little sort of thing there for the front wheels for semis to go off the road just a little tiny bit because it'll be sad to see that get deteriorated right after it gets done. And we've got these huge bus pull-offs that are, kind of, I'm not going to say anything negative about the bus pull-offs, but they certainly aren't utilized as much as a truck turning left off of Bunker Road, I can tell you that. So I just think that we should try to get that in somehow. This isn't going to happen tomorrow. So I should have brought this up before, and I completely forgot about it to bring that up, Mike. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I believe I do. Again, Barbara LaChance from District 5 may know a little bit more about the design process and schedule. I can say that the design process will include a public outreach portion of it where these types of comments will be made and add value to the design of the project before it actually design is wrapped up and before the project goes to construction. So there will be an opportunity to kind of share that and other ideas with Mass DOT and their engineer. I got notification that the internal design is kicked off internally at Mass DOT. We haven't gotten public, or the region hasn't gotten notification of the next steps in the design process for Milestone Road improvements. I can just tell you that it started and that you will have an opportunity to make those comments and share those ideas.
This is more of, this is an important, I mean, the reason it's getting widened to Bunker Road is because of trucks and weight. It should be really widened all the way to Wisconsin, but we won't get into that either. But and we got rid of some passing. I don't want to let that go, Mike, that was how this all started. Getting rid of so much passing on Sconset Road. I really think there should be none, but that's my personal opinion. But I just think that when something that important gets forgotten and it's such a simple little thing to do, I just, if you could find, those people that were on that Zoom meeting about the Popus intersection, obviously they're in charge. I mean, they were like, running the program. So maybe this could get put into it somehow with the guy comes down here and does some kind of review or whatever. So anyway, okay, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. So what is before you at this point is to authorize Mr. Burns to start the 21-day public review period beginning April 26th, ending on May 20th at our meeting. And if someone's so inclined to take a motion to do something here at this point.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
All right, and do I hear a second for that? Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Wendy Hudson,
Aye.
Christina Jelinek,
Aye.
Bert Johnson,
Aye.
Seth Engelborn,
Aye.
Don Hill Hogate,
Aye.
Joe Toppen,
Aye.
Nat Lowell,
Aye.
David Argson.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. So that's going to bring us into a few other things we need to do at this point. First thing before us is we need to now elect a chair and a vice chair. You've received packets, inside your packet, you received letters of interest. Mr. Iverson, could I ask you to act pro tem for the sake of doing this?
Yes, sir.
You're a good man. Thank you. And if you're all fine with that? But,
That's
okay, great. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
So let me just get this process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
I'm good.
Are we gonna email Nikki our votes? How is this?
Megan just looked up the bylaws for that.
Okay.
Well, it's
It's
the
up to
first
you
time we've
if you
been,
want to vote.
this is the
Oh.
first time we've been,
Live as
hybrid
well too. I know
without
it's been a
process.
while.
We haven't even
Yeah,
done
so I
it,
just want
so
to
it's
be
kind of
clear
like,
on that. I don't want to lead anyone astray.
Yeah, so I think it's at the discretion of the acting chair if you want to have people email in or if you want to just do a roll call vote.
Even with the hybrid, we can do that.
Yeah, as long as the vote's out loud.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as they do something out loud,
Yeah, by roll
that
call.
would be fine. So.
Okay. Great. So we only have one letter of interest for the chair, correct? One for each. We only have one letter of interest.
Correct.
So I guess I would be looking for a motion.
Mr. Motion
Go ahead.
Can you drop that so we can see Bert?
Yeah, I think that was Bert.
yeah, motion to, for the two candidates that applied for chairman and assistant chair. Motion to approve
One.
those.
I think you should do it in two.
We need to do it in two, please, Bert. So if you want to make a motion for the chair and let's vote that, and then we'll make a motion for vice chair and vote that, please.
I'll make a motion for the chair then to elect the only candidate we have that applied.
Which would be Barry Rector. Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. So motion made by Bert, seconded by Seth, and I can't see everyone, so forgive me, please. Bert,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Dawn.
Aye.
We have anyone else on?
No.
Okay.
Want the list?
Yeah.
That's okay. I found this helpful.
That's what you have to do. You have to write it down.
I can't, my brain
That's
is
okay.
fried. So, Nat,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Seth, I've already done
Yep,
him,
Seth.
Bert done him, Christina,
Aye.
Wendy,
Right.
Ready to go.
So.
not everyone besides myself.
Joe.
Are you gonna pass?
Did you?
Yeah,
I did.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did, okay.
And I'm an I as well.
Wait a minute. No,
All right,
thank you.
so that's
Quiet,
unanimous.
sounds like-
Great, so,
You're doing
congratulations,
such a good
Barry.
job. I'll let you.
I'll give you a- No, well, I'll continue, it's fine. All right,
Thank
so
you.
a motion for vice chair, please.
Motion for
Make
Nat
a
Lowell
motion. Yeah.
for vice chair.
Second.
All right, motion made by Joe, seconded by Wendy. Joe,
Aye.
Wendy,
Aye.
Christina,
Aye.
Nat,
Aye.
Barry, I
Aye.
like putting you on the spot
I
now.
know you do.
Seth,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
Dawn. Can you? hear me?
Sorry,
Great.
it's
Aye.
my phone.
I did just say, can you hear me, Dawn? I
It's
apologize.
gonna be the.
And I'm an I as well. So unanimous. Congratulations, Nat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for acting as pro tem chair.
Yeah, that was
Appreciate it.
that was stressful.
I know I could tell.
I'm gonna start liking the trail and we're gonna be moving.
So, let me deviate for a minute.
Yeah.
Because we're about to touch on other committee reports. But before we get off this topic, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I'll do my best. That's all I can promise you. I will do my best, but what might be instrumental as well too is over the course of the next month or so, maybe casually running into each one of you, because I really do I want to hear what you've got to say. Because the movement of this organization is under no one person. It's a group effort under which to do it. Even though we may not always all agree at times, it's a good spirited dialogue. And I know for me that helps sometimes, because even though I might not agree, it may get me to change my mind all of a sudden. Not the first time it's happened. So I think those kind of things are good to know that, as far as I'm concerned, and I probably speak for Nat, you can approach either of us. That's the only thing I gotta say in terms of that. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and the past few months have been a little crickety at times, and we really do have some things that have been floating out there for a bit that we need to move ahead on. So I will tell you that in the next few months, I'm gonna keep you all busy. But it's time to clean up things that have been hanging out there for a bit. Those kind of things, it's not a good image for us to let them perpetuate any further, and we move ahead. And I think, like with any decision as well too, there comes a point where no decision is ever etched in stone in my book either. Just because you make a decision today doesn't mean that after some reflection over time, you can't also change that as well too. So I want to just lay that as kind of ground rule as well too, that over time, as we develop, change, and new information becomes available, we can revisit certain things. There's no harm in doing that. I'm all about trying to keep things a little streamlined as well too. So that's going to be the perfect jump point for committee reports. Do you want to say anything before I?
No, okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
So under committee reports, I've asked Leslie to start listing this. But because you see it here does not mean you have to comment on it.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it here kind of as a feature for the public to be able to see it. But make no mistake, it is not here to say we will go through this one line item at a time, one person. No. If you got something to say, fine, this is the opportunity to do it. Otherwise, no comment works just as well in this scenario as well too. So.
It's informational, it's important.
It is.
I'm up first, I'll go. I do have just a little bit to report from the Rural Policy Advisory Commission that I'm the representative of this group for. We met on March 8th via Zoom. Our next meeting is May 10th, also via Zoom.
we had an update from Ann Goby, who maybe some of the public might not know, but the rural group never had a representative in state government, and so Governor Healy created that position. She's the director of rural affairs, and Goby was a state senator and took that position, so it's the first time. The Rural Policy Advisory Commission is heavily Western Mass, but also by population, the Cape and Islands are included. So our issues are sometimes different, but many things we do overlap. We all had been discussing letters of support for the current legislative session. The main ones were the housing bill. I asked the RPAC to support the transfer fee. As a side note, I did attend the State House with a group of Nantucketers, just representing myself. It wasn't a part of this. We also were advocating to create an office of rural and seasonal communities, like a seasonal designation is new, and there's some certain akin to gateway cities. The seasonal designation could help Nantucket and the Cape and Islands with some funding structures, to my understanding. We also had a pretty interesting update on micro transit, which it occurred to me now that I saw this that we didn't talk about specifically, Mike, in that state thing, and maybe Bryce, maybe it was in there, but I didn't see it. But it was Quabog, Gatra, and the Furcog. Those were the communities that reported. Quabog is like in the middle southern part of the state. The Franklin Regional Council of Governors is up like Greenfield, Deerfield, and I can't quite remember what Gatra is, what it stands for, but it's the Greater Plymouth area. So they all had some creative microtransit things, which I could certainly dig up, and it's a little rusty now. I did also want to mention that Mary Longacre and I attended the Cape Cod Commission's Economic Summit on March 5th in Dennis. She had circulated that to all of us. It was a social media post that was not really meant to be public, so I don't think they necessarily wanted, the Cape and Islands to attend. It wasn't like, I'm not sure if they invited staff, but yeah, I happened to be on the Cape where my mom lives, and Mary is very interested. She was, then chair. We both attended. It was fantastic. It was an incredible day. They have a huge staff. They were putting together updating their SEDS, their comprehensive economic development strategy. And there was just so many great things to take away. It's on their website, and I think it could really jumpstart some of the things you were talking about, Barry, and like getting some of the things, just to make sure we're not forgetting things that because things have changed since our last big plan, and there are some, blue ocean economy type stuff, language that, I don't think we've had before, but we might really consider. So that was a really fantastic day. Sorry, going on a long time. Water quality from development is a huge priority on the Cape. Housing costs, of course, sea level rise, of course, the bridges, huge. My big contribution was if you are trying to raise this flag, like I just did earlier, do not forget to bring the Cape, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, we'll help you. They think it's important for them. I'm like, wow, it's important for us. So there were some really sobering statistics that we should all be very much paying attention to. I know many are, but maybe I wasn't as much. Secretary Howe from the EOED was there. Dan Wolfberg, Sal Reese, some great people. So that was a great day. I really would encourage everyone to check out their website for some really good stuff. So those are my 2 tidbits. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Don't share on the right.
And Wendy, thank you so much for what you do with all that, because that's not anybody can deal with all that stuff off island like you are.
I love that part, but the communication piece, kind of to what we were talking about before, and how to get this information to the public is top of mind. Like it's just a challenge, and maybe your point about the media, maybe the current, they are doing a really great job with the social media side. Not to leave out any other channel, but maybe radio, I think we can get a little more creative than maybe we've been. I miss Jenny Garneau. She did a great job for us back in the day. So maybe it's time to put a little money into that again. I don't know. But in any case, trying to share that information is always.
So I don't ever want you to feel rushed either.
Oh, I don't. Oh, thanks.
Okay, no, that's okay.
List, and we skipped it last time, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, no. This is all good stuff that you're.
And I will definitely bring up that SEDS thing.
Do me a favor, that one particular informational packet that you had, Could you share it to Leslie first and then? she
Of
can
course, I'm
get
not
it?
sure if I have an informational packet, but just. the
Was it a
stuff
web, was it a
the
web link?
website, yeah, the Cape,
Yeah,
Cape
generally,
Cod
I'll,
Commission's website links to there. I think they might have a specific separate
Yeah.
website for the SEDS.
yeah, generally what I like to do at this point is make sure that it goes through the director first and then gets disseminated downstream afterwards,
Absolutely.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
please. Joe, did you have something or?
No, I
just heard something.
No, I
about it. That's
was
okay.
just asking for the links.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah, so Leslie will make sure through staff we get that. Talked about. Anyone else on any of the committee reports?
I'll chime in for affordable housing.
Please, Dave.
Fairgrounds Road is coming down the home stretch. I think it's very exciting. We'll finally get some heads and beds there. The trust continues to try to purchase more property. We had RFPs put out for Orange Street, which unfortunately came back with one applicant that didn't work out. So we need to redo those RFPs and put them back out. But the trust continues to try to create more housing, and we're getting there.
Thanks.
Can I just ask one question to Mr. Iverson?
Yeah,
So one thing, Dave,
please.
no, so like the new stretch code, I'm hearing that some of the modular home companies won't be able to transport some of their structures because of the extra weight due to windows and stuff like that. It's gonna be adding like $150,000 to $250,000 per unit. So I'm just like, is that coming into play? You guys
That has
talking-
not come into play for us yet. I think, well, with Fairgrounds, clearly all those boxes came long before then. So
No, I
it'll
know,
be
but as a
it'll be the
developer,
next,
yeah.
and the reason the RFP didn't work on Orange Street, I'm not exactly, I can't speak to the exact thing, but I think it was more of a technical technical reason.
It's a funding issue.
It was a funding issue, yeah. So, hopefully they're gonna reapply, I think.
For anyone that doesn't know, I'm on the review committee for that
Okay.
project.
So, yeah,
And
so,
it came down to a funding issue.
yeah.
It's gonna have to be re-advertised.
Yeah.
Or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think we're in the process of that now, so.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer, but I'm sure that it's gonna be part.
No, I'm just like, if you're
Yeah.
getting, ready to budget, and the next thing you know, is someone's adding $250,000 per
That's the
unit.
reason why.
I mean, that's like
Yeah.
$1,500,000, $1,700,000
Yeah.
over there,
Yeah.
possibly.
It seems that prices escalate on a daily basis.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Where are we with 6FG? Speaking of housing,
Six
Hal
F-
Keen,
We,
They asked for a year extension. I think.
yeah.
is
Yeah.
that's not dead?
No, I don't think
Okay, I'm just
I think
curious.
the
That's-
last thing
Forgotten
we
all about.
discussed, and actually I think it might have been in a select board meeting
Yes.
that they said that they would not ask for an extension. They would throw in the towel if they felt it was not a workable situation. So, I know it's I mean, how long has this been? 6 years?
In 2017, I was on the review board.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's crazy. So, and the amount that price escalated in a matter of a few years was crazy. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Seth, you've been very patient. Go ahead.
You're on mute.
He's got
I'll,
it.
I'll give the update for the harbor plan committee. if that's
Please.
okay. So I think it's been at least 6 months, if not more, when I addressed you last about this committee, and we're making very significant process. We, in the fall of 2023, completed all of our public input for the first round. Our harbor plan update process received the highest amount of public participation ever in the history of the Commonwealth. Much more than any municipality ever before. And then since then we've been working with our consultants at Urban Harbors Institute at UMass Boston to go through all the sections that are identified in the plan and actually work with the public input, the committee input, and the technical considerations to draft the plan. So we've gone through at least half or maybe 3/4 of the sections at this point, one by one, keep going through each section. once that's completed, we'll have a draft plan in place. And there'll be a second round of public comments to review that plan. Then there'll be any changes or updates as needed. And then that plan will get sent to the select board for adoption. And if they are okay with that, they'll send it to the state for adoption. So we're getting pretty far along in the process. But we still probably have the rest of this year and maybe a little bit into next year to complete the whole process.
Right. Thank you. Awesome. Anyone else?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, so no changes, be back, I think our last meeting was February 21st. And I think the last meeting I brought you guys up to speed, so nothing new there.
All right.
I will say that Nantucket Area Work Group, we've broken into 9 different chapters, if you will, and we're working on the master plan, and everyone's been put on teams and all that stuff. So we're gonna try and put that together. But I want to say that Bruce Mandel is doing a very good job. You know, doing yeoman's job as he's been going through chemo. So I just want to say congratulations to him. I think he's done with his chemo, but he's did a really good job throughout the entire time. So
Awesome.
credit to him.
Send him best wishes from us. I will, please. Okay. That brings us to other business. Let me want to be a little careful where we go here, because again, other businesses for things not reasonably, being anticipated here. If it's going to get into a full-fledged discussion, it may be better to drop this into another month's meeting, depending upon how far you're going to go with the whole survey issue and stuff. So, okay, let's just see where it goes. Let me give you a few moments and let me see.
I
where it goes.
just feel that we had a good conversation already about that topic as it came up. When
Okay.
Mike was talking. I think, Mike, can you hear me? I know you're on mute now, but there you go. Thank you, Mike. Sorry. I always want to go back to that Beta consultant. The guy that did the milestone, what did they call it? Old South Corridor? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, the
Mike?
Old South Road Corridor study, yep.
Because that got brought in to the DOT, this most recent thing with Fulpus Road and out to Nobody Farm and the roundabout there that was brought up back then before COVID, that we've sort of forgotten all that. And then it got restarted with Carl's letter and other, that chime, that sort of just got revitalized with that letter he wrote. And I think, I brought this up a long time ago, Mike, and we sort of, I don't know how you do it, but I think the technology and Zoom and everything that you can do today versus even 2019, it's like 100 years ago, is showing how roundabouts function. If we don't get the understanding of a roundabout and how it works, I was away for 5 days and I had several conversations with people about roundabouts versus rotaries, and it's still not understood enough. It just isn't. I hate being like silly, but people still don't know the difference. Enough people don't know the difference. And I think that, Dave and I have a little bet about this stuff together, along with a few other bets, but hopefully we live long enough. That's our sort of thing, to live longer, is if the Milestone Rotary gets done before anything else, even though we have a rotary and it gets turned into a roundabout, we have the land now, all that. When I saw that survey on the Nantucket Current, I thought it was you. Did you do that? No, somebody else did it. So that will change the minds of the whole island if that happens, in my opinion, because it's not new, but everybody knows what works on it and what doesn't in their head. They might not think about it every day when they're driving through it, but they know the parts that don't work in their head. And when it gets done, that's going to change the views of people that are sort of still against roundabouts. So that's my little thing. I don't know if there's videos, I don't know if there's ways to show how they work. Like that guy did that day, that night at our meeting. I'm never gonna forget what that guy said. He was the smartest person that's come here to talk about that stuff. Can't even remember his name, but I'm telling you, you know who I'm talking about.
Ken Ho.
Yeah. I mean, that's all, Mike. I mean, I wanna like see a roundabout before, you know, I can't see. I mean, this is crazy. Like, we've waited forever and we still haven't done anything. So that's it. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the comment. And then, Mr. Chair, I'll just note that I think a lot of people thought that the Sparks Avenue roundabout would take off like hotcakes, but we do have some conceptual improvements and just I think it's up to the community for when they actually get implemented.
Make no mistake about it, that is part of the hazard of being an advisory board where we.
Well, you have to go to town meeting though.
Right, but there's
It
only so
has to
far
go
we
to the
can-
ballot box.
Right, now I know the process, but that's what I'm saying to you, there's comes a point where it's not. Much as we may want to pull the trigger on things at times, it's up to.
How many times? I'm sorry. How
Yeah.
many times it passed at town meeting?
The one right out here.
Yeah, oh.
Yeah.
I bet, I know. we
Or
all
it
know.
gets-
Okay, another meeting.
It was like 8 votes. And it was
Yeah.
the day they closed
But not-
half of
no, but-
Concert Road because they were tying the sewer in from Monomoy. That's when we voted for it. So that was really smart.
Yeah, or another
But
time.
others that we voted for, but the ballot, it didn't pass at the ballot.
Correct,
Twice.
yeah, and that's.
Right.
Nobody, it's Fairgrounds and Old South.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's sometimes too where people feel the pinch
but
as
town
well.
meeting agreed, which, so,
Right,
The other issue, Leslie, this is actually your thing, is I think we did explain this at, I don't know if it was here or right away, so I forgot. But the country overlay versus town
versus.
in the turning lane, why that can't happen at Nobody Air Farm and Milestone because of a bylaw that was passed in the late 90s.
It's a general bylaw, it's not zoning.
Yeah. If they call it, what do they call it?
50%,
Traffic
buddy.
improvement or
50%
some
change.
whatever the
Yeah,
terminology.
so just to explain in a nutshell, it's a general bylaw and it's the same bylaw that prohibits turning. What are those things? We don't use them, stop lights.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna use that, no matter what.
Well, this has been a long meeting.
No.
They got a blanket one on the venue.
Stop.
They got rid of it.
So it says that you can't make certain improvements to roadways that would increase traffic capacity or increase speed. There's a few different things.
Right.
And you cannot add turning lanes unless it's in the town overlay district, unless it's required as part of a subdivision approved by the planning board. So for the Nobody Air Farm Milestone intersection, there's no subdivision associated with those, and it's in the country overlay district. So that's why we can't just simply add a turning lane.
Mhm.
But the state can do a roundabout,
They can't, because it's an intersection.
and it's a
improvement,
150-foot
so
layout.
It's not a turning lane. The,
Right.
The language in the bylaw doesn't specifically address roundabout.
And the one we did at Macy's and Old South was just inside.
And that was part of the
Via-
planning board approved subdivision for Richmond.
Richmond paid for it, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with the median style of Old South Road that had to be tied to subdivision improvements.
So you see, and Christina, this is one of the reasons I'm bringing this stuff up.
Mhm.
These are things that are just. 5 people know this stuff.
That's
on the
why
whole
I'm
island.
writing it down.
Unbelievable. I mean, it's so, I always say every year we're 5 years further behind in public information of how they understand these things.
that's why I brought it, but it
Complicated.
did pass at town meeting, some of the
Right,
yeah.
recommendations that we've made, it's not that we're
I
pro,
think that was
like,
also
speeding everything
before
up, it's,
buttons too, I think.
that's true, yeah, I mean,
So
the frustration levels might have been lower.
So maybe next time before we vote on it, we have a how-to video for having a town meeting.
And I was telling you, nothing's etched in stone. So If you think you want to have a little bit more robust discussion or slash brainstorming session on this, we can certainly put it onto an agenda and sequester a little bit of dedicated time toward it. What I'll ask you to do is, as far as I'm concerned, just listening to you, I don't think it's a bad idea to begin with. But do me a favor, just mention to Leslie whether you'd like to move ahead or not. I'll let her compile your feedback and let's see where it goes to. But we could certainly put it on as an agenda item. And probably if we're going to do that as well too, we'll probably put a hard time stop in there as well, so we don't consume hours trying to vet a process, but I think it's worthy of discussion, and that's just because enough time has elapsed. Does that sound reasonable to all of you? Kinda, sorta, maybe. Let her know if you're interested.
All right, and Mr. Chair, for anyone who's interested in reading more, Christina. Chapter 127, section 19. That's the limitations on road improvements. And
What's that,
construction.
98? Like 97, 98,
I think it's 90, I thought it was 98.
pretty sure.
This only has when it was amended.
It's an
Oh.
E-code 360 website.
Yeah,
That's really
chapter 127, section 19
There you go.
of the code.
Leslie,
All right.
I might put a little line item on here for you from now on in here, just so we can hear from you, just see if there's anything going on.
Everything's going on, but I do have a question for the commission. Do you like meeting in this room? I mean, I think this is kind of a nice room for you all, but if
Yes.
you want to go back to 4FG.
I like this.
I was just gonna ask
like
you at
this.
this point,
The intimacy here is good. We don't normally get big crowds, and I don't want to block the scheduling for other. This is gonna end up being conflicts.
I think with the size of our group, that this room is better instead of us being at the other room where not everyone gets to sit at the table, it just gets.
I like just the layout of this.
That's a
table as
good
well.
point. I wasn't even thinking about
We
that.
used to be.
Because you're
upstairs,
sorta-
that's out of the question
Yeah.
now, right?
right?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah,
This
the,
is more like the upstairs
Correct.
conference room.
Yes.
They're right about that. I didn't
I
even
think
think of
it's a
that.
better space
Yes.
for us, yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to book this room going forward.
And then if we
If
need
I
something
start,
bigger
if we
room-
start booking.
I mean, I'll end up going over there and wondering where everyone is.
No, but I mean, if there's a major agenda item, then we can shift over there, but
For
I think
sure.
for now, I
Yeah.
think this is the place to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I think that's a good idea, because for, at least as far as I'm concerned, for a while here until something changes again, I think having these kind of meetings are much better.
Nice being in
But-
person.
I think,
Yeah.
and we can discuss the seasonal idea too, and see how this works for the summer, you know? So,
I think the advantage here is that parking space is a little bit more dedicated as well, so let's just see how it goes, though. We
Yeah.
can, you know, again, like I said, nothing etched in stone. It sounds like I'm gonna have to build in, what, a 10-minute recess period somewhere in between, so you can all run to stop very quickly and come back. Yes.
Only if the sushi is full.
And I'm not gonna assume that you're all going to the Stop and Shop either, but we'll keep it good. I've got you laughing, that's.
Those were boards of old, Barry. Those were boards of old.
Deliver plate of.
Let's
I
move
need
this table over
to-
to shop.
Yeah. I'm not gonna go any further. Good, levity is an important thing at times, we need to have a little laughter is always helpful for the soul. Is there anything else before us? Hearing nothing, I will take
So
a
moved.
motion, okay, to adjourn, and
So
Second.
moved, second.
there we go. Roll call vote one more time. Joe Topham.
Aye.
Don Hill Holgate.
Aye.
Seth Engelboard.
Aye.
Bert Johnson.
Aye.
Christina Jelny.
Aye.
Wendy Hudson.
Aye.
Dave Iverson.
Aye.
Nat Lowell.
Aye.
And Joe Topham.
Aye,
Did I-
man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
all
You
right,
can vote
it's all right.
twice.
It's all right. It's all good.
Nantucket. Chair concurs at this point. Thank you, everyone, for your time, your energy, and for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good, thank you,
Discussion.
Steph. Nikki,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Doing that. Good.
Thank you, Nikki.
It's a big change for you to deal with.